Hey YouTube, this is Nathan from Law Enforcement Landscaping. Today we have a AGT LRT23 Chinese mini skid steer. I purchased this machine a couple weeks ago for $6,500. I am located in Northeast Ohio, and for $6,500, significantly lower than any of the name brand mini skid steers on the market, which is a good price for what you're getting here. There's two options with these machines. You either get a track or wheel drive. I chose to go with the track for its a little more versatility. The wheel drive would probably leave a little less impact on grass versus track, but the track can probably handle hills a lot better and go into more areas that a wheeled one could not. This machine here is equipped with the 23 horsepower Rado engine, which from what I've heard is the manufacturer of Predator engines. So if you were to have an engine failure, you could go to Harbor Freight theoretically and get a direct bolt-on for this machine here. There's a lot of Facebook groups out there dedicated to these machines and similar ones like it, which is where I've done a lot of research since there's not too many YouTube videos on them. And from what I found is immediately after purchasing, a couple things you want to do is first fill your hydraulic fluid, because they are shipped dry, and there's really no specification on which hydraulic fluid to use. So I got the Traveler Universal Hydraulic Fluid from Tractor Supply, and what I've heard is you can pretty much use anything and it'll work. Another thing is to almost immediately just change the oil in the engine. The oil in there is not very good. It comes out kind of milkshakey, but I'll show you guys how to do that in a minute here. And I used 1030, which is what a lot of people use in these machines, and it seems to work pretty well. Another thing people complain about is that this machine is shipped with some loose bolts. So people like to go around and tighten all the bolts up on them, just to make sure everything is nice and tight and before you start using it. As well as grease all the fittings. There is quite a few grease fittings on this machine, and I like to use the Lucas Red and Tacky grease. If you've ever seen Project Farm on YouTube, you would know he tested it and tests to be the best all-around grease. Now, the couple issues out of the box that a lot of people have is fuel issues. That seems to be the number one thing, and really about the only problem that I see with these machines. The gas that they're using over there in China when they ship it, and it's sitting, in a freight container in the ocean, isn't very good for the carburetor or any of the fuel system on this machine. So what a lot of people have to do is replace the fuel filters and clean out the carburetor, and these issues pretty much go away. Besides that, the fuel pump is also kind of a common issue, and you can either replace it with another manual vacuum fuel pump, which is what is on here, or some people upgrade it to an electric fuel pump. Another thing that I personally did to this machine is I went through and waxed it, which is why if you see some white residue, it's just reminiscence of wax, and coat everything in WD-40 to help protect it from rust, because that is another downfall in this machine is the paint. It's a very poor paint quality. Now let's talk about how to get one of these machines. So there's about 3 different ways you can purchase this machine. Either directly from the manufacturer on sites like Alibaba or AliExpress, which you have to go through a lot of paperwork and time, and have to have it shipped over to the US into the ports, and it can be a very big hassle if you don't know what you're doing. Another way is buying it from the auctions. That's where a lot of these machines come from. Is people buy them on the auctions such as Ritchie Bros. Or the third option, which is what I did, is find somebody who buys these in bulk, ships them over here, and then resells them on places such as Marketplace or Craigslist. That's what I found to be the easiest, because the dealer that I found seems to be very helpful and knows a lot about these machines, and if I ever encounter an issue, he is there to help and knows a lot to where to find any different parts that I would need or any assistance that I would be needing. So now I will give you a walk around of the machine and explain the operations and controls. So the controls in this machine are fairly simple, but slightly different than the ones you would see on a Bobcat or a Dingo. So how the machines and the controls work is each lever controls that side's corresponding track. So forward would be forward on each track and back would be reverse. The right stick, if you twist it to the right, it dumps the bucket. To the left, it raises the bucket. If you twist the left one to the right, it will raise the boom, and left will lower the boom. What comes on this machine is a battery disconnect. This is the throttle adjustment. You have a horn, lights. Do that. The horn or the lights, which are actually fairly bright, and you can hear the fan turn on there as soon as you turn the ignition on. And a hour meter, a temp gauge, and a fuel gauge. This green indicator light is always on, and then the oil cooler indicator. It also comes with a 12-volt DC outlet and a choke cable. And this bar here in the middle is for the auxiliary hydraulics. So I could show you those. The auxiliary hydraulics are nice for stuff like a trencher or a plow or things of that nature. And you can see the hookup right up here. You've got 3 hydraulic auxiliary hoses there. Another nice thing about this machine is it does have a quick disconnect bucket. Pull the pin up, twist it, and it'll unlatch, and you do that with the other one, and you can back right out of the bucket. And now I'm going to address a couple questions I've been asked on Facebook, or a couple other questions I've seen people ask. There's a little access hole here, where you can access the dipstick. It is a little difficult, which is why this back cover is removable with 6 bolts. And I have seen some people put a hinge on here so you can easily remove the access panel to access the to do your oil change and to check the oil every day. Another question is how to tighten the tracks. So there is a grease fitting right there in the center hole of the tracks here, and when you pump grease into it, it will expand the tracks and tighten them up to its specification, and then it will allow the rest of the grease to come out. So the tracks will always be kept tight. I will now show you inside the engine of this machine. You push in, twist, lift up, you pull this bar up here, and it will hold that prop open. The oil cooler will just lift right up out of the way, and then you could see into the engine compartment. There is the hydraulic pump and the engine back there. Also up here you will see the hydraulic tank, and that is where you fill the hydraulic fluid. The battery is very easily accessible right there as well, and you can see where you change the oil right at the bottom of the engine. There is your drain plug. It's not the best design because all the oil kind of falls into the bottom of the pan, but there is a solution to that. You can get an extension tube or a rubber hose and attach it in there with a quarter turn valve that will be able to direct the oil out of the machine to make for easier oil changes in the future. There is a couple other modifications or upgrades that people add to these machines. One being a return filter for the hydraulic fluid on this machine, because all it comes with is a strainer in the tank. Another thing being, I've seen some brackets welded up on the sides here to add some counterweights. to help keep the machine from tipping forward, since it is only 2,000 pounds. And the hydraulics tend to, if you are hauling a heavy load, tip the machine forward. I'm now going to operate the machine, show you guys how it works. So pull the choke, throttle it up a little bit, and start it.